Am I Going to Die? Thursday, March 7th. And this one's a good one for you. But without further ado, I've got to introduce our guest today.
Hey, I'm Keith Wilhelmy, one of the physician assistants here at the Ear, Nose, and Throat Institute, and happy to be here today participating in the Am I Going to Die series. And today, actually, this is one that might actually kill you, unlike ear candling that's been reviewed previously. So this one's a very topical subject, so happy to be here.
Great, and I'm Melissa Moritz, the usual co-host. So today's topic is, am I going to die from vaping? Also, e-cigarettes. So I just recently learned they're the same thing.
For all practical purposes, yes. It's seems an alternative to the cigarette smoke. It's and the problem nowadays is it's seen as a happy little fun vapor. Oh, it's not a cigarette, it's just vapor and blah, blah, blah. That's the vaping.
It smells good.
It smells good, it's got flavors and all that stuff, but the problem is some of the very real problems are still associated with vaping and e-cigarettes.
That's right. So let's start with our usual format, which is dispelling the myths around this topic. So today we're going to dispel the myths around vaping. So vaping is totally harmless and healthy.
No, definitely not. It still has nicotine, which apparently, from studies I've read on this, surprises a lot of people. Oh, really? It's got nicotine? Yeah, that's why people like it so much, and that's why some people, it fuels another myth of, can this help you get off cigarettes? Well, because it's got nicotine, and the logic would be, yes, you can kind of step down, you know, not a gateway drug, but a step down drug. But at the same time, there's a lot of other problems that are involved with vaping. But what else is in there? So there's nicotine, and there's other substances that the cigarette companies have long been slammed for putting in cigarettes that you don't even know about. And one thing that really disturbed me when I was reading up on this topic was that until 2016, I believe it was, this wasn't even controlled by the FDA at all. Total Wild West frontier, so ain't no telling what you guys were inhaling before that. Reminds me of old Roy dog food made in China, you know, killing dogs left and right. I mean, it's a reality. This isn't just paranoia. This is the real thing. And another problem, even now that the FDA is somewhat involved with controlling it, is that you know, these things are superheated to a vapor, and you're picking up other nanoparticles, microparticles, heavy metals that are ended up deep in the lung, and it's a new frontier. The extent of problems going to come for this really aren't even known yet. It's still
so new.
It's evolving.
Right.
Yes.
So if you're vaping and you've taken a step away from cigarettes and you said, oh, well, this is the cool thing to do, or you're a parent of a vapor, this is a great topic for you to be listening to today, because you'll be learning more about it. So I just can't believe that the FDA is so far removed from vaping. Recently we did the ear candling, and the FDA was removed from that as well. What do you think about that, as far as the FDA and coming from it from a health perspective?
Well, since they're into so much other stuff, it's surprising they're behind the curve on this one. Like I said, as of a couple of years ago, the FDA is involved. I'm not sure. I haven't looked at any vape packages lately. Maybe I need to see if this, I don't think it'll ever be FDA approved, because cigarettes certainly aren't, but at least there's some oversight to it. But the other thing, talking about something you said, maybe think of the kids, and you know, years ago it was like, oh, the druggies are, you know, enticing kids with candy flavors. That's the same thing that's happening here. That's true. Cherry, watermelon, bubble gum. Oh, what could be
buttery popcorn?
Buttery popcorn. That's a whole other issue we'll get to in a minute. But the bubble gum flavored vape, I mean, how horrible is that? I mean, because it's nicotine. It is. It's not.
It's hidden.
Watermelon flavored air. It's nicotine in there, and so the acceptance and the enticement of children. I'm surprised that the FDA is not a little bit harder core on that. I'm stunned by it.
What caught me in studying this topic was that that this is one of the leading preventable deaths. Smoking, you can prevent your death by quitting smoking. And if you quit now and you've been a lifelong smoker, you can still save some time on your lifespan. You can still add back some time on your lifespan if you quit now. And it's a preventable death. I mean,
Yes.
why wouldn't you, right?
Yeah, yeah, and cigarettes in general, we treat plenty of cancer at the Ear, Nose, and Throat Institute, so we have some authority in this department. And one thing, sometimes is people are active smokers, but there's plenty of cases that people were smokers, they quit 15, 20 years ago, and sometimes what's the saying, whoever comes home to roost a little bit later, the cow comes home or whatever. At any rate,
I don't
stuff
know the Southern terms. I'm still learning.
Yeah, so it's something like that. But at any rate, the cows come home to roost later. At any rate.
We're getting stuck on that
Yeah,
one.
sorry about that. There's a good saying, the chickens come home to roost.
Chickens!
Anyway, not to make light of cancer, but the point
Yeah.
is that, none of this stuff is harmless. And sometimes the effects show up right away. Sometimes it's distantly removed. And so it just, why go looking for trouble? And this is just asking for trouble with the vaping. Like I said, the bubble gum flavor just really messes my brain up. I can't get over that.
Supposedly, less than 10% of college students smoke or vape.
That's all?
It's a fact.
Okay.
So what we think is happening is the college students just don't want to admit that they're doing
Oh,
it.
well, that makes more sense.
Everywhere I've been lately, walking outside of one of our offices, which is a healthcare facility, and you can't limit what our patients do, right? So I pass through that deliciously flavored smoke, and it smells good, but do we know much about the secondhand effects of it?
No, I think it's all still too new to really have a good handle on that. So, but it's once again, it's still nicotine, and like I said, those ultrafine particles is something that, there's a lot of micro badness in normal cigarettes also, along with the superheated gases, but these heavy metals, and like I say, what we don't know is in there is what really scares me. And vape, how quickly, when somebody blows out a big puff of cigarette smoke and it kind of lingers around. You know how quickly those vape clouds you see come out of the car in front of you just dissipate like that. That's because it's ultra fine particles, and those babies can go way downtown. So that's a little bit worrisome too. Downtown into your lungs, that is.
Right. So what else did you learn? What did you learn about popcorn lung?
Oh, popcorn lung, yes. So another interesting term, and one of those additives we talked about, let me make sure I pronounce it right, diacetyl, which is a additive, and it's been common in the food industry for a long time, and it's what gives popcorn its rich, buttery flavor.
Yes.
So that's where this popcorn lung term comes from, and it turns out this is similar to COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, where it damages the tissue of the lungs, and it creates thickening of the bronchioles, which is the smallest airways, damages the little alveolar at the end, and so this is a chronic, irreversible lung disease. And this stuff is intentionally put into these vaping products. I don't know the chemistry behind it, but it's not a byproduct of nicotine. It is intentionally put in there for whatever reason. And it's a real issue. And on the CAT scan, we'll have some graphics up as this thing runs along. There's these spots on the lungs that looks like popcorn. That's how it got its name, from a CAT scan of the lung. Yeah, so it's a real deal. It's not a theoretical situation.
So here's a myth or a fact. E-liquid can contain antifreeze.
Ew, hopefully not.
Well, it goes along with what you just said, that
diacetyl.
Diacetyl. Okay, if you can't say it, you shouldn't be putting it in your body. It's just, right?
That's some
the
people's
FDA
rule
doesn't
on looking
approve
at packages.
it, and diacetyl, why? Antifreeze? Would you smoke antifreeze? I wouldn't. Might use it to wash the windshield of my car to get stuff off of it, but not inhale it.
No, it's worrisome.
So, so if we had to choose one between vaping or, so vaping and e-cigarettes are the same thing.
For this purpose, same thing.
Okay. And vaping or
Juul.
A Juul. Okay, tell us what's the Juul
Well,
thing.
the Juul is just kind of, to me, a variation of it. Some aficionados may speak differently, but it's smaller, more compact. It plugs into your USB port to charge the device, and
Interesting.
very slim, very sleek, very cool. And that's, from what I'm looking at, that's popular amongst the younger crowd, that cutting edge thing. And, it's just another twist on the same problem. And there's a picture we'll have of, somebody taking a hit off one. To me, it's just not attractive whatsoever. It's just, the good thing about them is they don't stink like cigarettes do. So that's one, if I got to throw one positive, I'd rather walk through a crowd of vapors, but personally it's
Do we know if
the
it
long-term
stains
effects.
their teeth? Stains your teeth?
I don't know that.
Don't know that.
Don't know that.
Or then you get the wrinkles. If you've a big, long-time smoker, you get
Right.
those wrinkles.
Yep.
You can get them just by normal aging too.
Yep.
But anyway, so to be cool, you could vape, you could smoke cigarettes, or you could just buy a pack of candy cigarettes and just look cool.
Yeah, there you go. But yeah, and that's one of the flavors, that's one of the more worrisome things, is it's kind of re-normalizing
Yeah.
smoking, as it were, as kind of
Right.
a social norm of, it's just vaping, it's no big deal. But
No.
it's a big deal.
Well, a few months ago, a gentleman who was outside of the vape store who had just bought a brand new vape machine, or gadget, I don't know what you call them, he got it, it came loose and lodged in his throat, and he died immediately.
What? Oh,
Yeah.
gosh.
So, I mean,
Didn't sound-
am I going to die from vaping? Well, if you can avoid getting a piece of the vaping equipment lodged in your throat and not dying from that, would you die from vaping just in general?
Well, if you go long enough, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease is a very real problem, and those people are always suffering for a long time.
Do you see
It's
that
a very chronic illness.
Do you see COPD in the ENT Institute?
Oh yeah, all the time. People come in, bless their hearts, rolling their little oxygen tank and all that stuff, and pretty much all of them will tell you, yeah, it wasn't worth it. But that's human nature. You don't know. So be smart. Stop it.
Right.
Cut this off at the pass.
I mean, of course, smoking and vaping release stress.
Yeah. Yeah.
Myth or fact?
That's true. I say go out and walk instead.
Right.
But yeah, that's true.
Endorphins, right?
Yep,
So it's also known that sometimes the long, deep breaths you take in to inhale the smoking, it calms you down.
I can see that too.
But then another myth or fact, high blood pressure. How does that relate to smoking?
Well, smoking, nicotine's a vasoconstrictor, so it causes constriction of vessels, which raises blood pressure.
Raises blood pressure. See,
Stress
as a
on the
layman,
heart.
I thought it did the opposite. I thought it would lower your blood pressure. It would relax you more, right? Anti-stress. But
Yep,
instead it
constricts.
does the opposite. So I hope this has been really educational for you all. I kind of always bring in, the layman side of things and being a mom and my worries. And I hear a lot of moms out there with teenagers who vape. I mean, it's a cool thing to do. It's not harmful.
Yeah.
It's right, myth or fact.
It's harmful.
It's harmful.
And at least now that the FDA is involved, then they're restricting the sale of minors. Before anybody could, any age could buy the stuff. So at least that's evolving.
They are. Okay, now I didn't know that part. So what age do you have to be to buy that? I didn't realize
That I
part.
don't know for sure, but I believe there are restrictions on that, so my apologies.
Right, and it may be 18. Cigarettes are 18. Myth or fact, Melissa used to work for Philip Morris. That would
Fact?
be a fact.
Oh my gosh.
It's not a bad thing. I had a great time. I worked at the World Trade Center territory in Manhattan.
Wow.
And Philip Morris promotions of tobacco products. But I don't smoke. I'm a runner. So anyway, little tangent there, but I thought you get to know me
fact.
and you get to know our guests.
I'll be asking about that later.
Okay.
So concerning smoking, vaping, and whatnot, I will say that, it's a real problem. And it's, if quitting a lot of people just cold turkey, they just say, I'm done. You know, I had this one patient told me that, you know, as the smokers in the family decreased, then the smokers became the minority. And one Thanksgiving, you know, y'all go outside to smoke. So he and his nephew were out on the back porch smoking, and they're looking in the window. Everybody's eating and carrying on, having a good time. And something in him just snapped. He just crushed that pack and like, psh, I'm done. So some people get that, just something happens and they snap. And then other people need help. And there are lots of things that can be done to help, various medications, support groups. It's not a trivial matter. And you know, the other thing is most people, the first time they try to quit, they fail. It's just numbers, just the facts. And that's okay. You know, at least you're working on it. At least you have a desire to do that. And so, you know, if that's you, don't despair. You know, keep trying. Don't give up. You have an urge, a need to stop, then it's good. And find something to help you do that, whether it's medication like Chantix or other groups or whatnot. But vaping is not a good option for that. It's just not good.
Knitting.
So knitting, that's good. So, you know, call us if we can help with that, and we'll do our best to direct you. We don't have a stop smoking clinic per se, but we can certainly help you get in touch with somebody that can.
We would love to help you. And hopefully you found this educational and you can pass this along to somebody. Give us your thoughts. Send us messages. Are you hearing what you want to be hearing from us? What can we dispel? Myths and facts of?
Send us some topics. That'd be fun. Kind of like Mythbusters. Let's do it.
Mythbusters for the healthcare industry.
Yeah.
So it was great. Thank you for tuning in. We will see you next week with another great topic around Am I Going to Die? Thank you to Keeble for being here today.
Enjoyed it. Thank you very much.